Stone Talk.
Welcome. Welcome to this week's BTO Talk. And all three founding partners of Beyond the Obvious are here. And Markus, if you can go on mute whilst you're not talking. Welcome here. Great to have you back. Our conversation about generative AI, GenAI, transformation, and everything which belongs there, including leadership. And we have so much exciting things to share. And you can already hear that because I'm speaking faster. But I'll pass on directly to Rob.
Yes, Rob Thurner here in London. Busy week. Looking forward to sharing our thoughts on taking our Orbit model to the market. And let me hand over to Markus.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from Thailand and Singapore, Southeast Asia. By the way, the guy who spoke first is Michael Alf, our co-founder, based in Lisbon. And we are helping you to get ahead in the game of AI and Gen AI. And we are very close to launch our new book, Hybrid Leadership, written with the AI, Hybrid Leadership, leading in the era of AI. And we would like to share with you the results from our first client contacts and workshops we're actually having already on the content. Before that, we are talking about technology. We haven't spoken about 2 weeks of advancement. We reminded Michael that he should not talk for 1 hour. Michael, over to you.
Which is really difficult when you look how much is changing, how much is happening. And it's really exciting. I mean, it's kind of Claude, so Anthropic 4.7 dropped with amazing quality and results. Kind of some differences here, which is also interesting. That's a separate conversation. And then shortly after, GPT, so OpenAI, came up with the next version 5.5. And again, it trumps and is even better than 4.7, as we can see, at least from the benchmarks. Again, you have to test that out yourself. And DeepSeek is on the platform again. DeepSeek with V4 Pro, basically at the same time like OpenAI. And again, they are making really strides into the market, playing pretty much against the other three players. High quality models, open source models, so you can actually download that and run that, for example, in your data center. And what I did, I actually, for my bots, as you know, I have a number of bots, OpenClaw bots running, and I switched them now to DeepSeek because one thing is interesting, DeepSeek is a lot cheaper than the other models. So you have to kind of experiment and see what works. But the other key element, and then I close, is it's less about the models. Yes, they are important. They are getting better, but it's actually about everything around that. So this is a context. Context is almost everything now. And secondly, the so-called harness. And we discussed that at an event this week. The harness is basically how you operate and how the models actually operate. So you describe that like a horse has a harness, and you can't ride the horse without the harness. So a model also needs a harness. With that as an introduction into technology and what is happening is really exciting. I encourage you to test that out. Handing back to let's start, Markus, with you again, and some interesting experiences.
Thank you. But before we go there, I have a question for you, Michael. How do you see the fact that I believe Claude had 26 releases over the last 20 days or so? The race is clearly accelerating. Where do you see this going? And one question we would ask then in the next part is, how can people catch up with this apart from listening to us?
I'm not sure I can't answer the second question because that is actually a real challenge. The first one thing what happens is that the models improve themselves. So that's part of the race. And you see the race and you see the money behind the race. You see some of the results of the big tech companies. They are better than ever. Higher profits, more revenue, and far less people. So they're actually kind of doing that. Much more for much less. And part of that are the models getting better and better. Where is it heading? Well, the models will continue getting better. You have this discussion, which some of you might have heard, Claude Mythos, as this kind of very secret thing nobody can have. Of course, all models will be on that level very soon. So you can't hold that back. So that's one thing. How do you cope with that? Look, listen to our lives. That's one thing. But the other thing, focus on where you can actually use it. I think the key one is actually you have to learn a little bit, but also apply and constantly ask yourself, how can I do it even better? Then you have a very specific application. You are getting better in this field. I think that takes you the furthest. And don't worry too much about all the things which are coming for your day-to-day work. That would be my recommendation.
So experiment, keep an open mind, and always learning.
Yes, that's part, but more than experiment, actually using it. So it's experimenting. I would call is like trying something out, new things out, but actually doing the work, creating AI workflows. Testing out, if you want, Claude Code or one of the other tools. Testing, that's experimenting, but actually doing the work and improving your work is a fundamental element of that, because then you feel this, how it actually applies, and the impact you feel much better.
All right, so let's talk about some practical application of what we have been writing about in our new book. We have 3 chapters. The first one is me as a leader. What does AI mean to me? The second is we as an organization, and me as a leader. How do I lead an organization of agents and human beings, which is the hybrid we are describing. And the final part is then the how do we actually implement that, and that is where we drafted our own orbit model. The O stands for orientation, the R stands for responsibilities and accountability, and the B stands for bridging. And maybe these 3 parts we should focus on, because then the last 2 parts out of the 5 is implementation and traction. So what I've been experiencing this week, and I will hand over to Rob in a minute, is that we actually had an AI for marketing workshop with a very, very large player in the bioscience and crop science. So very, very much application driven. They have farmers as their clients. They have small farmers, small farms as well, and they have thousands of them. And they basically depend on the digital maturity level in the countries in Asia. And we have 51 countries, so or over 50 countries, which means we have a very, very different level of maturity. It was absolutely amazing how easily we could use AI to optimize their marketing within 3 hours. We basically run data, either it is synthetic data, so we are not touching upon their own IP and data, or they can run it in their own system. In this case, we use Gemini, and they use Gemini Enterprise. And basically, I gave them cases, and they started applying it. They figured out, based on the synthetic data, immediately how they could improve their marketing campaigns, reach more farmers, and do the traction much better. We then talked about the bridging part. How can you actually contribute or take that into the organization? And that is my last sentence before I hand over to Rob. We said that marketers are the change managers and the agents of change in any organization, because marketing can use AI very, very fast with really good explicit results. Rob, how does that gel with your experience?
Yes, so thanks, Markus, for setting that up, and the O and the B. So my experience was around the R, the responsibilities. I was running a workshop in the defense sector for a number of defense contractors here in the UK. And the focus was around communication and how they develop products and get their products to market, and the collateral they're creating and the reputation they're building. And what was fascinating is we set them all a task. We got them to look at their own collateral and how that looks, and the messaging and the content. And then we went on to different LLMs and did the same thing. And we saw, of course, some very different results based on the LLM and how well optimized their content was, and how that was then translated into the responses they were getting. And what was interesting about the responsibility angle here was the content they were getting was very different. And their policy, depending on you were talking to the product people or the comms people or the compliance and regulatory people, their responses around how they manage content, how they make sure that all their content is optimized before it's released across multiple channels, caused a lot of questions. Whose job is that? Is it the comms team's job? Or does it actually sit with another group who are responsible for signing off? And at the speed at which they're changing, what is the optimum solution? So the workshops serve to show how different the content can be and how we need to be developing a consistent approach. Because, of course, if the content going out there in a highly regulated space like that is not monitored, then there are some big challenges. So that was my experience in the defense sector. Michael, what was your experience? I think you were looking in the area of coaching this week.
Yes, one of the things definitely, and I think one of the things we see is the kind of the general applicability, of these concepts and ideas, and it really helps, to getting through things. So I'm, for example, using that in kind of one-on-one C-level coaching. The concepts, as Markus described before, the me, the we, and then the how. I think that naturally leans into this one, also for coaching, and it helps really reflecting where you are, where the priorities lie, and so on. So I think that's another really good example how this can be applied and how it becomes more and more relevant. Markus, any other examples, great examples? I think we have so many at the moment, which is really nice to see.
We do, and I think it's crispy. So the message we are sending to you is you don't have to run an academic research in order to find the right AI model for yourself. As Michael said, start playing, but don't play with every model at the same time, because that will only confuse you. Secondly, when you start using an LLM, it starts learning about you as well, which means you and your organization and it will get better over time. Don't be afraid of trying and changing models later on. Michael is probably the one amongst us who is using the most of the variety of models, and he can compare very easily, whereas Rob and myself using ChatGPT, Claude, and other things, and might be sufficient, Watch out for the costs, yes, and listen to us and Michael, how you can actually manage that in the future, because we hear in PR, in media, that some organizations burnt their entire budget within a few months because no one was looking at their tokens being burned within 3 months, of course, right, Mark? Yeah. So with this, Rob, what is the takeaway apart from the QR code above Michael's head, where you can join our community for free? You will get a transcript of this session as a newsletter, and you will be always on top of the game. Rob, what is it to take away into the weekend? Today is 1st of May, Labor Day.
Yeah, I think today, it's a day of celebration, the 1st of May. I think celebration's a good theme. It may seem utterly overwhelming in many ways, the speed of change, the looking over your shoulder and seeing what others are doing. I think celebrating what you are learning on your own personal journey, what's working well, what are you doing as a business, what are you able to start automating, which workflows are working, and celebrating those small wins one by one, rather than looking at this seismic shift that you need to be making. It's all about one step at a time, and I think that small celebrations is a good place to close our session today. So thank you all for your time joining us. Thanks, Markus, Michael. Always good to be learning from you as we go through these sessions, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Have a lovely weekend, everyone, wherever you are.